First of all, thank you very much for everyone to join us today here. And we're having 34 participants, which is not too bad. We'll have here as main speakers Stephen Phillips, who is the Hong Kong Invest man who controls Hong Kong more or less, I hope. And then we're having Jochum Haakma, who is the president of EU-China Business Association, which is what we, where I'm also a vice president, and we don't meet for some time because of the pandemic. We have Raymond Fong representing the Chamber of Commerce of Portugal, China, in Macau or Hengqin. Are you in Hengqin now or in Macau?
Now I'm in Macau.
Can't hear you.
Now I'm in Macau.
Can you hear Iridio?
I can see it. I hear you very low. Can you put it louder?
Okay, please wait.
We can't hear you very much.
He's in Macau.
It's okay now. We are hearing very well.
Raymond Fong is representing the Chamber of. Yes, I can hear.
Yeah, it's better now, right?
Yes, it's okay. It's now.
All right. Then.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's good.
Raymond Fong is from the BNU, which is the oldest bank, Portuguese bank in Macau, and he is also a member of the Chamber of Commerce as BNU of Macau. And then we have a few people here, 36 people, and we can start this webinar, where I hope that Stephen Phillips can show something about Hong Kong and the Great Bay Area. Just one small comment. I've been following this idea of the Greater Bay Area because it's a fantastic idea from China somehow to mingle Hong Kong into this Greater Bay Area because Hong Kong keeps on being the prime IPO place or paradise for a lot of Chinese companies. But this junction with the Guangzhou and Guangdong province is actually a fantastic idea of making a greater metropolitan area, like Beijing is doing also with some cities south of Beijing. So anyway, Stephen, the floor is yours.
Great. Well, Lydio, thank you very much indeed. And good morning to everybody and good afternoon to those of you in Asia. I've got a few slides that I'm going to go through. And halfway through the presentation, in fact, I'm going to pass across to my colleague David Wong, who heads a dedicated team that we've set up at Invest Hong Kong for Greater Bay Area. So he's the guy that can answer all the difficult questions. So over the next 15 minutes, I'll give an overview of the Greater Bay Area, and particularly how we see it from the perspective of Hong Kong. I'd like to spend a few minutes on putting the Greater Bay Area into a broader context, because certainly what I see is actually the interplay between Greater Bay Area and the rest of China, Greater Bay Area and ASEAN as something very important to understand. So just don't look at GBA in isolation is my main message. Then David will take us through some of the opportunities and some of the facilitation measures in place, and then talk just a little bit about how Invest Hong Kong can help companies. He'll also talk a little bit about how Invest Hong Kong is working with our counterparts in Macau and in the 9 cities in Guangdong, because this will be quite a pioneering effort on FDI attraction into GBA that will see all of the 11 cities working in partnership. So GBA, I'm sure many of you are pretty familiar with GBA already. I think that there are probably 4 or 5 words that I would use to describe why GBA is so exciting. First of all is the scale. So we've got 72 million people. and they all live within roughly 1 hour's traveling of each other. So that's the second word, connectivity. Then it's density. They're all in this easily navigable area of southern China. They're affluent. It's the highest GDP per capita within the whole of China, within GBA. Macau actually has the highest GDP per capita, followed by Hong Kong and then other cities. Shenzhen and Hong Kong, quite similar actually. And then the other word I would use is innovation, because really the recipe for GBA is to see this region become one of the world's leading clusters of innovation and financial services. Obviously, Hong Kong, well known for its financial services, but innovation is at the heart of so many cities within GBA. Shenzhen, obviously most famous of them, but even if you look at places like Jochum, doing lots of leading work in biotech, for instance, and we'll probably draw out a few of these issues in greater depth. And the overall scale of the economy is significant. It's already $1.6 trillion. And indeed, the scale is significant already in terms of the global size of the economy. GBA is already bigger than Canada. It's already bigger than Spain. So I would argue it's too large to ignore. And given this density, its relative wealth, and so forth, really very important. But possibly even more tantalizing, I think, for companies in Portugal, is that by 2030, GBA is forecast by IMF to possibly be the 5th or 6th largest economy in its own right globally. So it's big, it's diverse, plenty of opportunity. And this is slightly more fun as a slide, and really compares GBA in the context of China with a couple of other Bay Areas globally, Tokyo Bay Area and Silicon Valley. So you can see H&M, famous European brand, 71 stores in GBA, 25 in Tokyo, 14 in San Francisco. The other one I love to pick, Apple, 18 on their home turf in Silicon Valley, already 11 in GBA. And you know, it's repeated with Mercedes, LVMH, and so forth, IKEA as well. More stores already in GBA than other comparable Bay Areas. So this just emphasizes the scale, the purchasing power of the consumers and so forth. Connectivity is incredibly important to really oil the wheels of GBA. And in some ways, you could almost make a little bit of an analogy between GBA and the EU. Whilst we won't see the total freedom of movement of people, goods, services, and capital, the aim is to see much easier movement of people, services, goods, and capital within GBA. And part of that is the physical infrastructure. So we've now got fantastic high-speed rail links from Hong Kong to Shenzhen and then onwards to Guangzhou. Hong Kong to Shenzhen now is just 15 minutes. Hong Kong to Guangzhou Nam, 48 minutes. And of course, there's now the bridge across the Pearl River estuary that connects Hong Kong to Macau and Zhuhai. And that's dramatically changed the transportation of goods. So whereas before it would take the best part of 4 or 5 hours for a truck to move from Macau to Hong Kong or vice versa, it's now just 45 minutes over the bridge. So the physical infrastructure really oiling the weeds of certainly the trade side. Total of 11 cities within GBA, 11 core cities. Each really has its own distinct identity and own particular strengths. And certainly the work that we're doing with our counterparts is to be quite honest about where one city has got a natural advantage compared to another city. But we do see the possibility for the cities really working in partnership. What is also very important, as you'll all appreciate being from Portugal, is we've actually got 3 different jurisdictions within these 11 cities under the one country, 2 systems formula. So you've got the mainland city applying to the cities in Guangdong. You then got the Macau system, obviously influenced by Portuguese heritage, and then the Hong Kong system influenced by the sort of British legacy, particularly in terms of the legal system and so forth. And indeed, one of the magical ingredients is to pick the best of all of these systems and leverage them to best effect. And the point that I make is, particularly for companies from outside China, is to look at what mainland enterprises are doing in GBA, because that will give you a good idea of where they see the relative benefits of each part of this jigsaw puzzle. I said I thought the broader context was important. Oh, I've jumped a slide. David's forcing me to go back to talk about how brilliant Hong Kong is. Obviously, Hong Kong, the most international city within GBA, because of our geographic location, slap bang in the middle of Asia. We've got this amazing connectivity in normal times to the rest of the world. Obviously, Macau, also a very international city, but Hong Kong, the larger of the siblings. One country, 2 systems, very important to the businesses in Hong Kong. And that really goes to the heart of the common law and legal system in Hong Kong, independent judiciary, world-class intellectual property protection. And that in itself underpins the international financial centre that Hong Kong is. We have a competitive and simple tax system, and many similarities actually with Macau here. But this is partly why Hong Kong attracts so many international companies from around the world. We've got somewhat over 9,000 international companies in Hong Kong, of which about 1,500 of them use Hong Kong for regional headquarters, pan-Asian operations. So going back to this broader context, certainly one of the things that we see in the inward investment work that we do on GBA, and Hong Kong obviously, is that it is a little bit dangerous commercially just to look at GBA in its own right. So first of all, GBA is actually part of the very complicated picture of Belt and Road. And I'm sure all of you are very familiar with Belt and Road, so I won't go into detail on that. But I think a lot of significance in terms of post-pandemic economic recovery is that GBA actually sits more or less in the centre of the geography of RCEP, which is going to be the world's largest trading bloc, beating Europe, and it's going to, by all estimates, boost the global economy by 200 billion. And of course, those economies within the RCEP region, primarily Asia, are going to be the biggest beneficiaries of RCEP. So this slide, I just tried to capture sort of how I see GBA in that broader picture. So we've touched on the consumer opportunities. So plenty of B2C opportunities for Portuguese companies to serve consumers in GBA. That can be to physically serve them or increasingly e-commerce. And it's multi-directional. So it could be serving wealthy consumers in GBA out of Hong Kong around asset management. And I think David will touch on a very important policy initiative, Wealth Connect. Then there's the B2b opportunities. Obviously, Guangdong home to so many of China's leading innovative enterprises, many of whom are doing business outside the country. So that outbound investment opportunity, and in particular, all of the services and financial related opportunities that arise from it, is also a really important part of that overall GBA opportunity. So working with Guangdong enterprises that might go to Europe, or they might be going to Brazil, perhaps pertinent to Portugal, and so forth. And then there's this connectivity between GBA and ASEAN. Probably the fastest growing corridor of trade and investment that we see in our day-to-day work is the mainland ASEAN corridor. And I think we're beginning to see a reshaping of the traditional east-west flows to flows that are going to be much more north-south, or more balanced between east-west and north-south. So my advice to a company in Portugal is to think not only about what you might do Portugal GBA, but it's how you can leverage GBA with the rest of ASEAN. So that could be supporting or working with an ASEAN partner in GBA or other ways. So hopefully that's given the broader context. And what I'd like to do now is pass to my colleague David, who will take you through a little bit more of the granular detail.
Good morning and good afternoon. I'm David Wong. I'm from the GBA Business Development Team in West Hong Kong. So after Stephen's introduction on the GBA, I will briefly go through different opportunities of different sectors that may be of interest to Portuguese company. The development of the GBA, the #1 focus has always been the innovation and technology. So there are a lot of facilitation measures to help R&D companies to do R&D in the region, and how to commercialize those R&Ds research products. So one of the highlights is the development of the Shenzhen Hong Kong Innovation Technology Park at the border of the two cities, which is coming in the next 2 or 3 years, and will be a very exciting development and a new innovation of the one country, two systems. So this map, I won't go through in detail, lists out all the major science park and technology park, high-tech zone in the region. Each region have different focus, each zone have different focus, and each of them have different policies to support entrepreneurs, startups, R&D of different type. So there are a lot of exciting opportunities and also policy support from the government of the entire GBA. As Stephen mentioned earlier, financial service is one of the key pillar industry of Hong Kong, and the GBA also offer a lot of exciting development in the financial service sector. Most importantly, which is most easy to understand, is the increasing number of middle-class Chinese consumers who are expected to grow to double in the next few years, so-called the mass affluent segment. Of course, also more importantly for the financial sector is the number of high net worth individual or ultra high net worth individual. In the two most wealthiest cities in the mainland GBA cities, Guangzhou and Shenzhen, there are already several hundred in each of them, and this trend is expected to go up. Stephen mentioned and other important policy innovation in the GBA is called the Wealth Management Connect. To put it in very simple terms, is to allow individual investors in mainland GBA cities and in Hong Kong to invest in financial products across the border. So this new innovation will be announced probably in the next few weeks, hopefully, and more details to come soon. And for business and professionals who want to work in Hong Kong and expand their business in the GBA, for lawyers, for architects, for accountants, and for construction industry, a lot of supporting policy measures have been introduced to help those who are already in Hong Kong to expand and work into the GBA. So lastly, briefly, I mentioned, of course, the consumer market is one of the most exciting and easiest to understand for foreign companies. It's the number of R&B, F&B, and also trade, cross-border e-commerce. These are all new and exciting opportunities offered by the GBA. So to finish off, briefly mention, Invest Hong Kong, we have different sector teams cover most of the industry to help overseas investor from planning, setting up, launch, and aftercare expansion. We have 32 overseas office and consultants across in Europe and also across all other major continents. Yes, and we have for the Portuguese companies, you can contact our colleague Paula Khan, who is based in Brussels. Last but not least, we have a dedicated GBA website which was launched recently. We have, in addition to overview of the region, we also have an investment landscape, mainland policy support, supporting policies, and other FAQs for overseas investors. We also publish a series of LinkedIn articles to try to explain the new GBA development and new policy in a short and condensed manner that easier for overseas business to understand. So when you have time, please check out our Invest Hong Kong LinkedIn page. So this is our brief introduction. You can contact Stephen if you have a further question. So I will stop here and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Stephen and colleague. Very interesting presentation. Very good. I'm sure we're going to have it on the recording. But please send us that if we can show it to other interested people. Okay.
Sure, we can send you the PowerPoint. Yes.
Yeah, no problem.
Very interesting. It's really a greater Bay Area. It's with those numbers, 70 million people and so on. I mean, it's greater than the UK. I mean, definitely Portugal. And but it's interesting that one way or the other, you have shown the Portuguese Portuguese influence somehow. Of course, it's a small because Macau actually for China is we're having some echo with some, I think, Raymond and Bernie. I can see Bernie there.
Yes. Hi there.
How are you? Yeah, but you have two computers at the same time, so one of them is making sound and the other is not. Okay. Yeah, it makes echo. Okay.
Okay, now should be better.
Okay, I think because I cannot close it here. Okay, so but it's interesting that of course Hong Kong has been always the big center of trading for China, and Macau is still gambling. It's a quiet place for many people who don't want to gamble. But unfortunately, in last year and a half, we've been suffering from this pandemic and limitations of traveling. My managing director in Macau, Rui Sernadas, who is online here, is stuck in Portugal since last summer, because he doesn't know when he can go. Last year summer. So it's very difficult because of the periods that are demanded to quarantine both in Hong Kong and Macau. Plus, we cannot fly to Macau, and if we do to Hong Kong, we have to do all that quarantine period. Anyway, but it's really very interesting. Even the size that will happen. Of course, this will have to be a special administrative region. I don't know what is the idea of China creating this as a separate entity in the geography, political geography of China. Stephen, can you clarify on that?
Yeah, well, GBA is a national policy priority. I think, as you alluded to, it's one of a number of regions within China as a whole where there's significant policy support for development. So you've got JJJ in and around Beijing, you've still got the Yangtze River Delta in and around Shanghai. Yeah. GBA is another. But I think the positioning of GBA is this innovation and financial services hub for the whole of the country, and particularly the international element of that innovation. And that's both inward and outward innovation from GBA. For those of you that follow the mainland quite closely, GBA is actually the first time that the chief executives of the two special administrative regions, i.e. Macau and Hong Kong, have actually sat on the leading group in Beijing. And the leading group is chaired by Han Zheng, Vice Premier Han Zheng, the former party secretary of Shanghai. So it's very much at the heart of policy making, and actually was conceived by President Xi Jinping.
Very interesting. Shall I ask Jochum, do you want to add something from our EU-China Business Association that we have not been meeting for some time, but I'm sure a lot of European countries who are members of our EUCBA have sent some comments on some of these issues. You want to join?
Yes, and of course. Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, Ilidio Serorio, I would like to thank you for being able to take part in this very interesting webinar on the Greater Bay Area. Ilidio is not only the vice chairman of the EU-China Business Association, but is also a very active member with his Câmara de Comércio e Indústria Luso-Chinesa. So we're very happy with him, and very unfortunately we haven't seen each other really eye to eye for some time because of the COVID restrictions, but we think that it's going to be lifted very soon, and that we will see each other and we make nice plans for the future, and also to travel to China, of course. Stephen, also very nice to see you too, and David Wong, and of course thanks to Victor Costa and Raymond Fong and all the participants in the seminar. Maybe a few words about EUCBA for people who doesn't know. The EU-China Business Association, the association of bilateral China business associations in Europe, aiming at promoting economic and trade relationship between the European Union and China. We work very closely together with the EU-China Chambers of Commerce in China, and we launched also together in Brussels all the reports they make about the viability of the Chinese economic system, and also especially the polls under the European companies there. We have a number, we represent almost all European countries, and we present more than 20,000 European and Chinese companies active in China or with joint ventures in Europe. So in normal non-COVID times, we receive high-level Chinese delegations and introduce them to our member companies, and we also organize a number of high-level meetings between European and Chinese authorities. We are also the co-organizer of the EU-China Business Summit, which normally takes place every year in Brussels. As you know, then Li Keqiang is coming over with a big delegation, and they are mirrored to a big delegation of European businessmen, and we are very active in the co-organizing of this, but this has not happened also over the last 2 years, unfortunately. I would like to say a few, maybe as an umbrella, which might be important. In 2020, the global foreign direct investment in the world collapsed with 42% due to the pandemics. China, however, inverted the trend and became the world's top destination for FDI, overtaking the United States. And the foreign investments in China have increased by 4% and reached $163 billion US. That's good to keep in mind, you know, because it gives also some, let's say, something about the trend. I'd like to come back in 1997 when I became the Dutch Consul General of the Netherlands in Hong Kong. I lived there for 5 years. There was already talk about the Pearl River Delta, that they should work together much more closely and so on. I remember, and Stephen, you will remember as well, and of course Raymond and as well, that Donald Tsang, the financial secretary by that time, already started some talks with the mayors of Guangdong and Shenzhen. And later on, of course, Donald Tsang became the chief executive. And then later on, the One Belt and Road came, which was converted in the Belt and Road Initiative. And actually, all these initiatives and also the 13th five-year plan initiative of the Chinese government to reshape the Delta Pearl River, to create an economic entity able to compete with the most dynamic and fast-growing industrial zones worldwide, making a core hub for technology and innovation, and one of the most specialized manufacturing areas in the world, was already, I mean, the talk of the day. And I think really, I mean, of being there and having lived there for many, many years, also 4 years in Shanghai, and coming there 4 or 5 times a year since then until the pandemic came up. The 9 cities to join the 2 special administrative regions, I think, of course, is an excellent idea, because I mean, if you look at Hong Kong, what is lacking in Hong Kong is land and labor. And where is abundancy of land and labor and talent in Guangdong province, in the other cities. So this strive to a deeper harmonization, I think, is something we all should laud, and we should be unlocking the true economic potential of the Greater Bay Area. There's one thing which is, I think, very, very important to keep in mind when we talking about this big corporations, and also comparing this to all the regions in the world. There is, of course, a very much different legal, tax, and regulatory system, 3 of them. And there's also a system, I mean, if you look at the exchange of capital control, that is also, of course, different in Hong Kong. And of course, it's very important, if you look at the 4 core cities of this region, and you look at their complementary roles built on their existing strengths. For example, Guangzhou, they are very strong, and they will build on that and capitalize on the international commerce and as an integrated transport hub. Shenzhen already for quite some time focus on innovation and technology sector, the sort of Silicon Valley of that area. Hong Kong, of course, will leverage on its status as a global financial center. And Macau, and I think this is also very important for the Portuguese viewers. I mean, it's not only tourism and leisure, but it can also act, and I think that's extremely important, as a platform linking China and the Lusophone countries. So for every core city, there is a huge opportunity for collaboration and to make use and to elaborate and capitalize on the economy of scales. Well, it's already said, Stephen, you had a very, very insight and in-depth presentation, and followed up by Mr. Wong. But the GBA, I mean, all the predictions say, even despite the pandemic and everything, that it will double in size in a decade. overtake the United Kingdom. The companies in the region, and that's I think is also extremely important because there are many foreign investors in this region, they are all highly confident, and about 56% expect a growth in the coming 3 years already of 20%. And about 30%, 23% of the companies where this poll was done with, they expect a revenue growth of about 30% in 3 years. So there's a high level of optimism already. Of course, many things has to be cleared, but I think that if we look at this region and if for the European Union businesses, when they, because it's not a done deal, it's not easy always to enter, of course, a foreign country, and China is also not built as a very easy country, but you have to really to follow the right strategy, and I think that you need to set up your business and to elaborate and to capitalize on all this very important strengths and opportunities. You need a good set of advisors and to follow the right strategy from the beginning, and also to adopt what they call a GBI mindset, because it is a little bit a different area. It is not totally to compare with the Tokyo area or the Los Angeles or Silicon Valley area. So how do you do that as a European company? Well, you have to factoring in the increased connectivity, the flow of goods, the services, talent, and information. You have actually to embrace this region holistically. And you have to see that there is the key role there for innovation and the policy measures that support this. And you have to make use of these policy measures, because I know from many of our companies which we are advising from the EU-China Business Association, that quite a number of companies make use of the incentives from the Chinese side as well, make use of incentives from the Hong Kong side as well. And it's very important if you mingle in this, as Ilidio said so nice at the beginning, the mingling in of Hong Kong in the bigger area. But I think if you mingle in there as a European company and be successful, these are all things to take into account and are extremely important. The GBI initiative, I think, really create international opportunities for business, though its alignment also through its alignment with the Belt and Road Initiative. We all know, Ilidio, we've been talked numerous times about this in the past, that in the European Union, the Belt and Road Initiative was always met, actually even up till today, with a little bit of cold shoulder. And the European Union always said, well, we have our own innovation platform and our own innovation plans. And we have always said as the, and also lobbied as the EU-China Business Association, that would be good, you know, when you're talking about such an incredible, one of the biggest infrastructural plans in the world ever been set up in the history of mankind. You better see where you can integrate and where you can be forceful together, and to see where you can do things together rather than looking at the other side. So I think that this could act as a catalyst for further opening up of the country's economy, the economy of China, with new policies tested in this region, in this specific region, before being extended nationally. I think that's also an extremely important factor, which could play an important role for the international business community. Whether businesses are looking to break into the mainland of China market to expand overseas, I think that the GBA represents an enormous opportunities. And before ending my short positive speech, I would like to say a few words about Hong Kong Invest, because I got to know them very, very well. They were more or less erected and founded in the time I was in Hong Kong myself. And we have been working very, very closely with them. They've been extremely good in hand-holding foreign companies to invest in Hong Kong, and I think most probably also now in the Greater Bay Area region, because they have a lot of knowledge, they have a lot of expertise, they have a very good network, and I feel very close to them because, as some of you might know, my home posting after also serving 4 years as Consul General in Shanghai, I became the Managing Director of the Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency it's exactly the same role as Hong Kong Invest. So even in that capacity, we have been working together numerous times. So I really would like to laud them also as an organization. I think it's very good for Ilidio that you invited them to this webinar. And well, I'm open for any question, and I give the floor back to Ilidio. Thank you very much.
Very good, Jochum. Very interesting. I didn't realize you lived for a few years in Hong Kong as well, right?
I did.
Okay.
I came there at the handover, actually. So from the handover in 1997 till 2002, I was the Dutch Consul General for Hong Kong and Macau. So I was every week in Macau.
Okay. Very good. Well, I've been in that area since 1983, when the government of Macau decided to make an airport, and I joined the Frankfurt airport to make all the studies, and we created a company there, and we are still there. And one of the things that I wanted to comment and ask also our friends from Macau and Hengqin Island, which is, by the way, it was a Portuguese island called Ilha da Montanha, Island of the Mountain. A long time ago. One of the questions I would like to ask both the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Macau and also president of SEM, a company of electricity of Macau, and Raymond Fong from BNU, is what do you think, also to the other participants or the other people here, what is actually the effect in Macau on this forum, China, Portuguese-speaking countries that Jochum very well mentioned, because this was a very interesting story. Back in the early 90s, I think, I was with the Minister of Foreign Office of China, and we were discussing about China. Actually, sorry, it was after 99. So early 2000. I had a discussion, and because, you know, Portugal is a very small country, Macau is a very small territory, but still with the Portuguese community we have of Portuguese-speaking countries that there were colonies, including Brazil, of Portugal, suddenly China said, wait a minute, you are much bigger than the rectangle of Portugal. And they decided to make this forum, China, Portuguese-speaking countries. Of course, lately has been a bit silent, this forum, because of the pandemic and so on. But I wonder, what is, from the Macau perspective, the effect of this forum in developing Macau as a center for this forum in relation to Portuguese-speaking countries? Raymond and Bernie, you want to comment on this?
Yes. Raymond, you want to go ahead first? Okay. Definitely, I think the activities of this forum has been somehow slowed down due to the pandemic. But I can assure that actually everything's still moving on. Especially, I believe, before it was planned in Macau, we should have that kind of minister level meeting among the Portuguese-speaking country together with China. That should have been held last year. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I suppose this forum or this kind of meeting at this minister level will still go ahead probably in next year. Okay, it was planned something like this. So I would see using Macau as a platform to somehow link with all these Portuguese-speaking country. I think this is a very specific role given to Macau. This, I think, never change even with the pandemic. So I hope that. By the way, we have this. We have inaugurated a building. Let me recall how you call it in English. Is the a building of Portuguese speaking country together with China. We have a complex, we have a building dedicated for that. It's already inaugurated last year. And of course, Ilidio, you are very much welcome when you have the chance to come back to Macau. Have a look over there because it's a nice building. And okay, having said that, I want to say, okay, this kind of things, initiative, I think is still going on, especially, China has been given this civic role. Of course, in the presentation of Raymond, he will touch something also very interesting that related with Hengqin. So maybe I pass the floor to Raymond. Maybe you want to address a little bit more.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Leung, and thank you, Leo. Maybe I pull up my PowerPoint first. Sorry, this may be a new version of of the Adobe, so I may have some difficulty to pull it up in a full screen. But anyway, anyone can see it right now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So in my presentation, the first page of my presentation is already covered by Stephen. He actually did a very great job in explaining how what is the component of the GBA. So again, it's the 11th city within the Pearl River Delta area, and actually situated in the Guangdong province. So you may see from my PPT that the Greater Bay Area is located in the very south part of China. So in terms of the GDP produced by those cities within the GBA area, Macau, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou will be the spearhead of the GBA development. So, but why Macau and Zhuhai is also highlighted in here because of Macau, even though the GDP produced in Macau is not as great as the other main cities such as Hong Kong and Shenzhen or Guangzhou, but in terms of the GDP per capita, Macau is still leading, is still ranking at the second place of the world. Due to the tourism development over the last 2 decades. And again, Shenzhen, they're already taking over Hong Kong as the most GDP producer within the Greater Bay Area. They are home to a lot of biggest company of China, such as Ping An, Huawei, Tencent, and also BYD, Biadi, and also GBI, which is the greatest biological research firm in China. So I would go to the third page of my presentation. So in total size of area for the GBA, we have 56,000 square kilometers, and also we have 72 million people living in the Greater Bay Area. But if we look at the bigger picture, for Guangdong province, we actually have 1.2, around 120 million people living in Guangdong area. And actually, the Greater Bay Area is interconnected with the rest of Guangdong's province area. So by stepping into the Greater Bay Area, you also could access those 120 million people, and also to the rest of around 1.3 billion people of China. In terms of GDP, we have 1.5 trillion US dollar in the Greater Bay Area. So if we compare those GDP figures with the other countries such as USA, the GDP produced in Guangdong is GBA area is around 7% of USA, 40% of German, or 70% of Italy. So this is how how big those GDP could be produced in GBA currently at this moment. So Macau is the center for tourism and leisure, which is also a cooperation platform for trade and services between China and PSC country. And this platform, just as Mr. Leung or Bernie just has mentioned, will be also strengthened, that I will explain later. Hong Kong will continue to serve as an international center for services and transportation, and also an international offshore R&D center. Shenzhen is a center for innovation, technology, creativity, and fintech. And also Shenzhen, right now, they are also in the role of as a key city for the China national development. Guangzhou is for trade and industry, cultural, education, and integrated transportation hub for the GBA. Because, for example, if you want to access from Zhuhai all the way to, let's say, to Huizhou, the first stop you will make is Guangzhou. So Guangzhou is the center for the transportation for the GBA area. So in here, I would like to highlight a city that is not so outstanding within the GBA, but will be a great opportunity to for Portuguese coming into for investment into China. So which is Zhuhai. Zhuhai actually is a city next to Macau, and they have an area around 1,700 kilometers, and with population around 2 million. GDP in 2019 is around 45 billion in euro. Zhuhai is actually a home to a lot of SME company, and also over 50 Fortune 500 company, and over 12,000 foreign direct investment projects generate over that from 70 different countries and regions. For example, a very well-known industrial company that produce electrical appliances, Geli, which is they produce air conditioning that sell all over China. So there is also one of the big and most famous company that's situated in Zhuhai. So within Zhuhai, we may observe somewhere next to Macau, there's a little island. We call it Hengqin Island. Just as Elidio mentioned, is Ile de Mondana, which is that mountain, that island.
Mountain island.
Yeah, mountain island. So Hengqin Free Trade Zone is actually one of the 3 free trade zones in Guangdong, which is a new area in Zhuhai, and they actually formally established in 2015. Together, there's other free trade zones such as Lansha in Guangzhou and Shanghai in Shenzhen. These 3 free trade zones are considered the pilot free trade zone in China. For Hengqin Free Trade Zone is actually only 200 meters away from Taipei. So as you may see my pointing here, this is Macau, and the remaining part is Hengqin. So for 2019, the total GDP produced in this region is around 5.3 billion. So Hengqin is aimed to attract international business and become a service, recreational, and travel base between China and other countries. And the main key role that defined by President Xi is to have Hengqin to support Macau economic diversification through non-gaming activity. Later, I will explain how important it will be. And the next part is, okay, here we have Hengqin and Macau actually they are kind of integrated together within one map. So Hengqin actually have a unique position. During the tenure or career of a president of China, they will never visit a city more than twice, except cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, or Hainan that they always held international forum. Then, the president of China will go there visit for more than one time. But Hengqin is different. Up until now, President Xi Jinping has already visited Hengqin for 4 times, because when he was still a vice president of China, he was the one who planned this development of Hengqin, and also when he stepped up into the office of the president of China, he always focused on Hengqin. He always concerned about the development of Hengqin. So Hengqin will be a place to grow, will be a place to thrive. The next part is about the transportation hub. I mean, the new Hengqin port between Macau and Hengqin. So you may see from here, if you see my pointer here, it's actually just right at the galaxy of Macau. If you go there, if you travel to Hengqin, you're just crossing the Lotus Bridge. It takes only like 5 minutes drive. So what, as I mentioned, Hengqin is so important and also so focused by the current president of China. So what already in Hengqin? Currently, there's already a resort which is called Chimlong International Ocean Tourist Resort, and also Shijimen Central Business District, Traditional Chinese Medicine Science and Technology Industrial Park. And these are already in Hengqin. They are already operating, and also in the coming future, because Macau wants to develop, wants to diversify its economy, especially by developing the financial industry. So Macau will heavily rely on Hengqin, because in Hengqin, especially through Hengqin, we could hire a lot of talented people. And also we will have space for more office and for the development of the stock exchange and bond exchange in the future. So Chimlong, as you may see in my my presentation here, actually in 2019, Chimlong is already ranked at the number 8 of the top 25 amusement theme park worldwide. So even Chimlong, I mean, even Hengqin is not a very well-known name to the Western country, but they're already standing at a very high level. So in terms of doing business in China, China is ranked at 31st in the Index of Ease Doing Business 2020. I won't waste any more time in here, so I'll just go straight to the challenge of doing business. So how to succeed in China? I actually work in China for 5 years already. So to be honest, if you want to succeed in China, you have to have strong knowledge of the Chinese market and business environment. And second, you have to make sure you hire a right people that could promote a close relationship with the business partner as well as the regulator. Because the regulators is always the key for you to do business in China. And lastly, I would say to protect your brand name. As soon as you register a company in China, and also as soon as you identify your niche, your identical image, you make sure you have to register it immediately. That's the very critical or important information that I have for you guys. So for the 4, 5, and 6, I will just skip it for now. And some reasons for success for those companies in China, such as Apple, they have demonstrate their devotion to purchase the best. Chinese consumers are willing to spend their money on these expensive products. Starbucks also invests heavily in China, and IKEA, as Stephen PowerPoint has also mentioned. And also we have some more companies like LinkedIn, Nike, Tesla, and some also from Western or from European countries. Okay, some advertisement here. So BNU, actually from Macau, we've been Macau for 119 years for now, until now. So, and for Hengqin branch, we have opened since 2017, and we will continue to serve as a platform between PSA country and China. And also we have excellent connection in China with almost all the regulator. And currently, from Macau, there are more than 4,000 companies already established in Hengqin with total capital over 130 billion RMB. And also, the Belt and Road with the Greater Bay Area will actually create a very good platform for PSC country to step in. And one of the thing that I want to also disclose or mention here is there is a new government direction that's going to be promoted very soon, which is to call Guangdong Macau deepen cooperation zone. So Hengqin will be the area to be implemented for this strategy. So I have been to a meeting that with China Banking Regulatory Commissioner in early May. During the meeting, the director of the CBRC has mentioned that this strategy or policy has already have issue in late April, and now they are in process of finalizing the implementation rule of this strategy. This strategy will be very important for the future development of Macau and Hengqin. So according to the director, in the future, Guangdong province in here will be governed in 3 different ways. So one part is the coastal is the special zone that I just mentioned, which is Hengqin. Second part will be the free trade zone other than Hengqin. And the third part will be the remaining area of Guangdong. So in the future, the Hengqin area here will have a very large scale of openness. So we are always, when we talk about China, we always talk about ethics control, capital item issue. In Hengqin, in the future, hopefully maybe in a few months' time, this policy control will be released, and also to a very great extent that even the director from CBRC has mentioned he had never seen such kind of openness have ever suggested by the government. So we are looking forward to see those new strategy and policy, and we're also looking forward to see the new development of Hengqin and Macau. So my part is finished. I'll pass back to you, Lidio.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. It's unbelievable, you know, such a small place as Macau. Macau had before 3 other islands, but during the war with Japan, somehow we lost these islands and they became part of China. Anyway, thank you very much, Raymond. Very interesting. It's quite a conundrum, you know, this area around Macau, and of course this foreign China Portuguese-speaking countries. Once it picks up again, it's very interesting because what Macau has been doing has been inviting people from these you know, countries, Portuguese-speaking countries, and they have always Chinese learning in Macau, and I think in China as well, for some of these people, some politicians actually as well. Anyway, we are running out of time. Yes.
Do you allow me a question, a short question?
Yes, of course.
Yes, I have a question for Raymond Fong. Maybe
Raymond
we all
Fong.
remember that Li Keqiang established and inaugurated a special financial and economic zone in Pudong quite a number of years back. My question, is it in the plans that Hengqin will also get that status as being a financial and economic free trade zone, financially especially? Is that also in the plans? Because Xi Jinping has been there 4 times, so I was just wondering, because I didn't see that on the list yet. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, according to a director from CBRC, he actually was the director of CBRC in Shanghai. So he said this kind of openness in terms of capital item and free trade. He has never seen it in his career. So we are looking forward to see the new implementation rule of this Hengqin and Macau cooperation.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the openness of the policy in Hengqin will be greater than the Pudong.
Yeah, really.
Interesting.
Interesting. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you very much. I was hoping to have some questions and answers, but in our list, I don't think we have so many doubts or questions. It's a pity, but since we are running out of time, I just want to thank all our participants and speakers, especially Stephen Phillips and his colleague, Jochum, Raymond Fong, and my good friends from Macau, Bernie Leong, and the support of our back office of the Chamber of Commerce. Victor Costa is our wizard in all this webinars and Zoom, so that we do quite frequently from the Chamber of Commerce in Portugal. So thank you very much to all of you. Please send me the presentations, because a lot of people, our 40-something people that have been online, they would like very much to have them. Okay.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.